Hey, it's 2:01 a.m. It is Wednesday. I'm going to say it's in the morning, but to me it's actually at night. I don't actually consider it morning till the sun comes up, okay? But still, it's 2:01 a.m. and I am up. I did get up around maybe around 11:30. Now mind you, I was just kind of hanging out in my room and fell asleep earlier. And then I woke up and realized, hey, wait, my son's not home. Now, mind you, he's older, and it's really none of my business where he is, but still, it just kind of threw me off. Okay, so then I realized that it threw my schedule off. And so now that I don't work like a 9 to 5 job, every hour that I'm awake, or just like the working day or whatever, it's just all like one big day, you know. It like I could go to sleep whenever I feel like it. I can go to bed in the afternoon if I wanted to or whatever. It's just kind of weird, and it flips and flops around. So anyway, today I was working on content, of course, and I will say that I've been kind of feeling just kind of worn out in the last few days because I was getting very worked up. A lot of anger issues were coming to the surface about the delays that I've been experiencing and the fact that I have to re-strategize and have to re-strategize and do that kind of stuff so many times. Redouble my efforts because of people, coming in and doing that. And I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but I will say that, the whole issue has pretty much burned me out. Like, it has burned me out, thinking about it, getting frustrated about it, because you have to understand it's dealing with a very important part of a person's life. This is how you're able to survive. And, it's a very bold move on people's part, and it shocks me. Now, you guys have to understand, I'm talking to my perps, every single last one of you. You have to understand from my point of view, okay? All of you guys know each other. You guys communicate with people that, like, you guys can, and when I say you guys, I'm referring to like the pyramid peeps. You guys, I'm through my intuitive messages, I've come to understand that you know people like my sister, my adoptive sister Lisa, and you guys all communicate and everything. And unfortunately, I'm not in a relationship with a lot of the people from my past, which I'm comfortable with, okay? I'm a little uncomfortable with all of this, okay? And I think you guys should understand why. 50 some fun years ago, and I understand, like, I'm not the first and only clone. I get that, okay? And I do understand, like, there's an experimental phase where, you introduce clones into different households. And of course, the only way you're going to do that is through, like, adoption or whatever. I think it's important for people to understand that, these are some of the consequences that occur when people find out the big secret. Like, the big secret was, growing up in my adoptive family, was that I was adopted, of course, and that I was actually like the spawn, or like the clone, okay, of like a previous relative or whatever. And the thing is that by withholding that information, that deprives the person of knowing who they are. And it's important to know who you are. Even if you're not somebody who has what they call royal blood, or even if you're just like somebody who's just a regular, what they call, you know, regular Joe or whatever, just somebody who's just a common or whatever, it's important to know that it's who you are. And I find the whole process very strange because of the abuse that goes along with it. Even if you were to erase the whole issue of the experiment, okay, now I know that my father, um, accepted the fact that I was going to be cloned, but I know good and well he would have never agreed to the Nazi people, like, coming around and harassing me. And I know that's one of the issues that my father himself faced when, in the 80s, when he started to show signs of Alzheimer's and all that. So it's, I'm not, obviously I'm going to be very uncomfortable with that situation. And, so, obviously I've been thinking about that. And, And of course, you know, it's a subject that I feel really burns me out because, it has deprived me of a decent life. It has deprived me of having any sort of stability. And it's the situation that was created by Libra 14, the bullying. I felt, just obviously I had mentioned that I felt traumatized by somebody invading my space and then dictating things that he thought I was supposed to do, especially when it just feels, um, it almost feels like you're being kidnapped or you're being taken by kidnapped. It feels like you're being kidnapped because it's like you don't have any control over the bullying that I was going through. Going through different workplaces, losing my job, having people harass me, make requests of me that, I would rather just die than have to deal with. Those sort of big compromises that he was doing and forcing me to try to make was making it to the point where it just didn't even seem like it was worth living at all. So, when you're dealing with that kind of bullying, irrational, especially since I've never met this man, even in person, the whole situation, of course, felt very sick to me. And, this has been like the only thing that I've been able to think about for a long time. And I would say that the fact that they put you in things like isolation, isolating a person is one of the most painful things that you can do to a person. Um, and they do it because I think, maybe he did it because he, obviously didn't want me to have contact with other people because his goal was to direct me, and shape and move me into certain, situations or whatever. And that was a human trafficking issue that, kind of floored me. And, that's another thing that adds to the feeling of being victimized. You know, the whole thing is just, um, it's, obviously it's a lot on a person. And it set my life back, you know. And this is one of the reasons why I feel so, you know, angry and also in a mad rush to get out and start my life over again, because it's important for me to feel as though I've had some sense of normalcy and um, and also feel a little bit of a sense of satisfaction. I know that I am never going to completely feel what they call 100% fulfilled in my life, mainly because I feel as though everything in the beginning of my life, the middle part of my life, and even up to now has been just absolutely devastating to me. Like, I honestly, I feel disturbed by everything. Looking back on through the years, it has this really sick undercurrent to it. And, and I'd like to move away from everything that gives me that feeling. And that's understandable, And so this is one of the reasons why I was so disturbed about, obviously after I left working at the last place that I was at, BT Trucking, I was just really wanting to get away from everything that was associated that caused me those triggers. And a trigger is basically something that reminds you of putting you right back in that negative situation, something that reminds you of having to experience all that all over again. Okay. And I would say, just, I had mentioned, like, me posting things on Patreon and then coming back and it's like, okay, this issue has not been resolved yet. It's like, the constant reminder that I was dealing with, and it feels very intrusive and it feels very threatening to me, having to deal with anything relating to online stuff. Mainly because I wasn't comfortable with what Libra 14 was doing. Um, and let's just say, for example, he and I were never like an official couple, But if we were ever in that situation where we became an official couple, and then I had later found out while we were like an official couple what he was doing, I would have been terrified, and I would have had no choice but to do something drastic to get away from him, because this man was basically trapping me, and forcing me into certain situations. And I can just only imagine what it would have been like had I been in a formal relationship with him. What a nightmare. You know what I mean? What a nightmare. So yeah, women like myself, we are all alone, and we pretty much have to take care of ourselves. You know what I mean? I was around people who didn't have um, any morals. You know what I mean? This is not something that you do to a woman, and you don't treat people like that. And whether it was Libra 14 who initiated, or it was he masterminded this plan, or it was one of my co-workers, or whoever, it doesn't matter, whoever came up with the plan of, basically trying to, strip away my personality with the, you can't paint, you can't draw, you can't sew, you can't wear this, we don't like this, your hair, we don't like the picking apart a person, on issues relating to their personal preferences and their right to live and exist and do the things they want to do. And basically putting a person, that right there is a form of human trafficking, stip, creating stipulations on whether or not you can survive. That right there is the gun to your head, right there. When you're starting to uh, infringe or impede on people's freedoms, and it makes people feel, obviously it's a threat to your life, and that was disturbing to me, very disturbing to me, and it shocks me every day, and but it does make me aware of how people develop their personalities and their beliefs and how they handle and manage other people. And the reason why he manages people this way, and I'm referring to Libra 14, which he had no right to even call himself a partner, manager, assistant, or whatever. But the reason why he, feels as though he's trying to play big boss man and ask people to make ridiculous, I call them Rumpelstiltskin sacrifices, okay? Because we all know, like, no one in their right mind would sacrifice or exchange their firstborn that they love for something else, okay? To me, it's like, well, that's insane. But he must have been around some sort of environment or industry where that was so normal to him that he thinks that this is how you do things. On top of it, he also felt a sick sense of competition, you know, and which shocks me, like I said, because I don't know this man personally. All I know is that I was a fan of his when I was younger. I grew up listening to his music, and I respected him as an artist. That was it. You know what I mean? That was it. No further, nothing else. I don't ever recall having like his pictures plastered on my wall. I don't ever recall worshiping the man. I don't ever recall thinking of him as a heartthrob, fantasizing about him. Like, how some people do that kind of stuff. I never dealt that with this man. But still, I did respect him as an artist, and I did think that he was, someone who probably had a higher level of consciousness than what he really did. He seemed very, um, I don't know, he just seemed brainwashed. That's my perception of him while I was communicating with him for that short period of time last fall. And then I think the last time I spoke with him, via text, we only text. We never had like a full-on conversation. We never spoke by phone or anything like that. It was all through text. I think it was either in February or March. That was it. You know what I mean? So, anyway, I know that I am like, I realize how much this wore me out, this whole situation. For years, I've been feeling like I've been in a cave, or I've been like in a box, banging to get out. And this is the way it is. It's like nowadays, because we live in a world where everything is like, can be done remotely or whatever, you don't have to put somebody down in a basement or chain them down. You can actually create realities to where they do feel like they're stuck, they're confined. Mainly the rumor campaign that was created about me is what created mainly the most of the problem. Okay, and they created a rumor that to me that was so vicious that it's like literally to me it's like, what were you thinking? And obviously, because this was a Nazi experiment, this thing, these rumors, this issue, this fallacy about me, being coming back, and I'm a basically a bad person, and that I came back as a female, and blah blah blah, and then the whole fact that you know, as if the way they were speaking about it was as if I was like the only person who's ever been cloned before, or that reincarnation process. This is a form of reincarnation, basically what it is, through the cloning system, which when you think about it, when you think of like other celebrities, for example, some of these people were, I'd call it like purposely cloned. Okay, they were cloned for a purpose, whether that be based off of somebody who was famous at one time, and they may have been cloned for specific purposes. Like, for example, I think Libra 14 must have been cloned for his looks and his singing or abilities or whatever. Okay, this is what I'm surmising. Okay, so I have been living with a stigma that they knew that was going to tarnish my image for a very long time, okay, which I didn't deserve. Okay, so when I think about everything that I've experienced from this, okay, has been negative. So you can fully understand why I feel like this need to put distance between me and certain people, like people that I used to know. It is completely understandable when you think about, okay, this is a Nazi experiment. Nazis did things that a lot of people would shock a lot of people. You know what I mean? And they did a lot of things that were inhumane. Their methods and they were very threatening to a lot of people. And I understand still to this day there are some people who still respect and idolize Adolf Hitler. There are still people who do that. Okay, but obviously, that would be completely, it's one thing to have people that, or values that you may respect, okay, or you believe in, but when you act them out in this sort of manner, like blacklisting, bullying people, operating behind like a secret government to hurt another person, whatever, you know what I mean? This is when it's a hate crime. Okay, this is obviously against the law. It is what it is. Okay, so it it shocked me and it bothered me, and everything that, of course, that painted pretty much all my experiences throughout this entire experiment, because it was all like a hate crime, really, when you think about it. So, and I am burnt out thinking about it, and I also feel as though this drain or this burnout is, a lot of it is relates to the fact that I don't have like warm feelings existing in me. Like they're basically depleting on a daily basis, because my true feeling is that I feel nothing but disgust when I think about people. This is my true feeling. I mean, this is what it has created inside of me. I can't help that. I can't help that when I think about people and I look at them and I think the only thing that could possibly be coming out of them is nothing but evil. That's how I feel. That's like the first thought that I have. And I know some people would say things like, oh, Maria, just try not to think that, because that's a very negative thought. But at the same time, after dealing with it over and over and over again, over and over and over again, over and over and over again, just like if you were doing some sort of laboratory test or whatever, if something was happening repeatedly over and over and over and over again, okay, and every person that you communicate with had something wrong with them, whether that be the fact that they just wanted to, they were perpy, meaning that they just wanted to gather information, and they made it very obvious, okay, whether they tried to or not, that they were just basically trying to use you or be some sort of psychic vampire that I don't really need. Okay, so uh, I've only dealt with really negative people, especially looking back in their, my life, So, you have to understand, as somebody who's been dealing with that, I've dealt with this, that's all I've ever known. People that were either, they pretended to be nice, and then they were really assholes. People who always have an agenda or whatever. And hey, it is what it is. Okay, so, I'm glad that people are respecting my boundaries, because when you think about this, and I'm explaining it to the people about what happened under that context, it should be fully understood that, you can't just walk into Maria's life and think it's okay, or feel like, you have to proceed with caution. And there's some people, like I said, I don't ever want to see again. It is what it is, okay? So I have to pick up my pieces and move on. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm moving on, of course, by myself, right? I'm all I have. This is why I kept saying, the entire time, hey, I'm all I have. So anyway, and I am burnout. I'm like, burnout on the whole situation. I'm burnout on the fact that, I've been making all these videos for so many years and talking about this issue over and over and over again. And, you just get tired of that subject, you know. I think the only thing that I try to keep these issues separate, but everything is pretty much molded into one conversation or topic. I mean, because the one thing I do love thinking about C.B. Berganza and his life and his personality and the quirkiness behind him, right? And I do know that people perceived him to be very strange. But C.B. Berganza is a good example of somebody who has never had any um, foundation, any roots, okay? Because most people have roots, okay? Like you grew up in one spot and you were around your people and you developed a sense of community. I have never had that, at least not in this life. I've never had it in my past life either. Now, I may have had it in my other lives, and that's something, of course, I need to explore, but right now, like, I'm trying to catch up on content and that sort of stuff. And see, the issue of me being C.B. Berganza, everything wraps up into it. Because when you think about it, the reason why I'm having to re-strategize is because people are bullying me off of, I was being bullied based on, people know about me because of me having to come back as a clone, right? And so, Libra 14 thought that he could treat me with no regard, like I didn't have, things I did angered him, because I guess we don't see anything the same. We have different views. And so, I don't know, Neanderthal thinking, and this is a big mistake that a lot of people make. They think that they could, if a person isn't a certain way, that they could just change them, and this is like, oh my God, you can't really think, and most people, I would say, people who are logical, people who are somewhat, I would say privy to modern day psychology, even the smallest form, okay, would know that his attempts to do what he did was a form of abuse, and also it was, just something that a certain kind of behavior pattern that you should avoid when it comes to things like dating and trying to find a mate, okay? Because obviously the goal is to find someone that you're compatible with, if that was your choice to be in a relationship, okay? And, compatibility is something that, you should look for. That person should possess those qualities that you're looking for. It's not something that you can put in them, okay, or force them to have. And so all I did was feel like deprived and abused the entire time. And this is what a lot of men do, to women. And some women do it to men too. but it's one of those subject matters that a lot of like relationship counselors talk to people about, when it comes to abusive relationships, where people do things like that. Like, men will abuse women and tear them down. A lot of times men tear down women because they want them to be in a state of subordination to them, or they feel like they want to rely on a woman financially, and they want to make sure that that woman doesn't have any other suitors, so that she can find somebody else, and then that guy would have to pull his own weight, you know what I mean? And when you really think about it, it's very narcissistic, because that man is basically saying, I'm going to secure my future at your expense. That's bullshit. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Human trafficking, a form of modern day slavery. Okay, and forced marriages is definitely one of them. And so, the thing is like I had mentioned before about, people who are being civilized. Okay, and I'm gonna say that I've dealt with a lot of uncivilized people. Okay, but when it came to, I didn't know that he was a part of that, but I do know there was a time when I was thinking, like when I was over at my last job, how irrational, um, and that's what made it so scary, is their irrational behavior. You had people who were thinking that this was an okay thing to do, and I'm like, no, this is not an okay thing to do. It's terrible. I'm thinking of myself. Last year, I had left the company, and I've been out of work for a year. My God, and so, I was thinking, every year that I was like, every year that I had to, get hired for a job, and then get like deal with a lot of ridiculous bullying, and end up leaving the job. I kept thinking, oh my God, couldn't I just find a job that I'm well suited for and stay there until I retire? You know what I mean? Because really, that's the only way that I thought I could make it, because I was a worker bee as far as I knew, and meaning, and I never, the idea of me being around someone else was not feasible, mainly because of me feeling like I'm always going to be in abusive situations. And I was right, I'm always in dealing with people who are abusive. My social circle abused me, you know what I mean? And the social circle that I really wasn't familiar with, didn't know about. But this particular hidden social circle did, of course, encourage other people that were possibly related to me, that were related to me, I should say, to cause me abuse and severe trauma. So yeah, it's very strange, and so I'm dealing with the aftermath. And in the last few days, all I've been feeling is extremely drained, just drained. Like, I'm tired of the subject matter. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And what I want more than anything is I want new experiences so I can talk about something else. Now, I do know that I've been talking a little bit about politics, and I felt like I had to delve into that, only because I wanted to make myself very clear on, what it is that I think. I think I was attacked mainly because some people merge religion with politics, and some people are of the thought that they use religion as a way of keeping people or controlling people. They feel as though if you can, they try to make it into a doctrine that you don't have any choice. And see, this is the reason why the United States was formulated separate from England, because of that reason, and about the religious freedoms. And then later on, we've had religious freedoms here for a very long time, and then England followed suit sometime in the 1950s. So that's a long time, okay? But when you think about it, it's like, okay, well, you know, um, I've always operated within the guidelines of what I was allowed to do, and I honestly never thought, that I would ever be targeted based on like what it was that I believed, right? And so I never really thought that it was important for me to talk about my political views. but I did talk about them in the last few days. This particular video that I'm working on right now, and I'm trying to make a video for Patreon. Oh my gosh, so many things right now. I'm getting tired, but anyway, this particular video is a follow-up from the flipping the experiment, the Nazi experiment. Because originally what I wanted to do was talk about me dealing with the Nazi experiment, my conclusions, right? Then I was going to delve more into that topic of the discontented, and then recognizing people who are discontented, because there are some people I do understand that they have realized that, hey, you know what, I have been brainwashed. I have been brainwashed. Like, there's some people who I get that feeling, especially when I do intuitive readings. There's a lot of people, like even the community that I live right now, there's a lot of people like, oh shit, I didn't realize that I was that brainwashed. And there are some people who really feel sorry about it. And it's not I'm not trying to sit here and try to make these people my friend, but I am basically saying, okay, this is a situation. What do you do when you're not happy with your life, okay? And so I know what happened to me because I was in that environment all my life. I was around people. I was like, a part of an experiment. So of course everybody that I've dealt with, was always going to be toxic. Everybody I had to deal with never encouraged me to do anything. Basically, the only thing these people ever did was try to implant negative thoughts into me, try to treat me like I was a second-class citizen, and bully me every chance that they got, right? So I always knew internally that this was bullshit, so I had to develop my own coping techniques, and this is what I'm talking about. And this is, I would say, help formulate my view on the people and the environment that was around me. So this is what I'm talking about. So this is this extension of this video, and of course there's going to be magic involved in it, because when it comes to trying to start over again and trying to forgive yourself for um, the things that you've done in the past. Like, for example, you want to start a new slate. You're talking about, your ritual baths. You're talking about maybe wearing an amulet to protect yourself. Because when you decide to step away from what they call the matrix, or you try to step away from this sort of thinking of damaging people or lashing out of people, because people have normalized this sort of behavior. They really have, and I will tell you, when I was younger, growing up in a narcissistic household, that did not necessarily make me what they call immune to being like somebody who's fair, or somebody who was going to be able to have good reasoning skills, okay? There were times when I was younger that I didn't always handle arguments correctly because I was basing it off of what I was, the environment, okay? So obviously, as I got older, I realized this is not working. I need to re-strategize, and I need to think about things logically, pick things apart, and this is what I've done. I've decided, based off my observations on how people were acting, based on my observations on how inconsistent people were, based on my inconsistent, I started to develop my own way of moving forward in life, okay? And having to navigate through people who have treated me as if I didn't have the right to exist. I knew how to stand up for myself, and I knew I wasn't going to I was going to put up with somebody going to try to invade on my life, especially since, I didn't know anything about C.B. Berganza when I was working at Murray Family Farms, but I was determined to try to get back on my feet, and I have been fighting and struggling, making videos and everything else for the longest time, right, up to 2024. Okay, right now I'm up here taking, I don't know what time it is at this point, but it's probably close to 3 o'clock. I've been talking for quite a while. And I'm going to say that, it's been a very long time. And I'm relentless, okay? It's like, because I understand I have to take care of myself. But when you add the issue of C.B. Berganza on top of all of this, that means that I have dealt with injustice even longer than the 53 years that I've been existing. Okay, so at this point, the only thing I'm doing is I'm looking straight forward, and I just want to get to the rest of my life and hopefully never have to deal with that sort of trauma ever again. Okay? And that's all I've been asking to do. So, it's been very difficult for me. It's been very, because you gotta understand, you know, um, the cruelty that I've experienced, okay? First of all, the fact that I'm a clone. The second fact is that I'm not just a clone, I'm an orphan. How heartless can you be? Now, Leader 14 was well prepared to sit here and carry out his weird plan to sit here and abuse me and psychologically traumatize me, even when he knew that I was going through all of that. That means you're evil, motherfucker. That's exactly what that fucking means. Okay? And it doesn't mean anything else. Okay? So anytime when you deal with something that's called a hate crime, you're going to be a little shaken by it. And that's how I feel. Even to this day. Even though I found out little by little, even though, you know, it's been revealed to me, it's the fact that they would actually do something like this so widespread. You know what I mean? It's like you close me off from employment and you sat there and mess with social media, you're set. Especially since I never did anything to warrant that. It was based off of 100% nothing but jealousy. Okay? And this is for somebody that, you know, I can't say I loved this person, but I respected this person at least. Did I deserve it? No. It came out of nowhere. It's not like I did nothing to provoke it. You know what I mean? So I'm telling you, I understand how people are, and they can be filled with spite. There's people who walk around, you know, acting normal, but they literally want to um, throw all these sort of psychological daggers into your back. Okay, they're like just basically waiting to pounce on you and cause you all kinds and wreak all kinds of havoc on you because they have such hatred for themselves. I had no idea. I'm not, and I don't advise anybody to be a person who's going to just sit there and take it. You know, and I think this has been going on for quite a long time. So anyway, I'm getting tired of these videos talking about this issue so much. I really am. I really wish I could have new experiences, but like right now, my main focus is working on content and getting stuff done for this month. And I definitely, I can't sit here and worry about the issue on Patreon. Patreon, I will be uploading videos on Patreon this month, of course. But like I said, I have to start making an income, and this is the reason why I've come to this decision, because of the lag, because of the intrusion, because of this over and over and over again, which I clearly did not deserve. I clearly didn't deserve it. Okay, I would never be with Justin Hayward. I would never be with these people that would abuse me like that, and I certainly would never agree to some sort of stipulation to where I'm supposed to be in some sort of, that's a form of what they call an indentured servant. This is what they would be classified under when they would talk, if we was to go to court and talk about this in terms of human trafficking. This is exactly what it is. Okay, I don't have to sit here and give up my life, any aspect of my life that I have a right to protect, so I can make money. And see, this is why, the reason, like I said, the reason why he would even think that he could even suggest such a thing is because somehow or another, I believe that he has been in an environment where this sort of thing was normalized. Like maybe this is why I'm thinking within this particular industry, this is why I got this vision of the circus. Like, people, because there's certain industries, right? Like, that practice or are completely unaware of employment laws. There are some industries that will sit here and think it's okay for, people to work in the hot sun for 12 hours straight. They don't think about, them having to legally, number one, supply them water. Okay, number one, know that they have to give these people breaks. This is what I'm saying, okay? So, some people, they just normalize this, okay? Because they never realized it had rights. They just thought they were just going along and not questioning, okay? And they must have known that they must have felt disappointed as to why they were in this situation. Like, because I'm sure there's a lot of celebrities who are thinking, wait a second, I've been in this industry for a long time. Shouldn't I be doing more? Should I have more? Shouldn't things be better? It makes sense. At least this is what they let you think. But it's not like that. So there's a lot of people who, have been psychologically, of course, financially, and everything else that have been abused, experienced this sort of abuse. And of course, I've been dealing with abuse, so therefore I feel like I'm kind of like an authority to talk about it. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up this video. I'm probably gonna sleep in until at least 8 o'clock tomorrow. Get up, work, finish all my content. I'm just drained right now. I'm drained because, I have mentioned before that I have had to double my efforts because of something that should have never happened to begin with. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that this will be an example to a lot of other people, and that, that they understand that this sort of stuff does happen, and also encourage people to keep going even though you're dealing with this kind of adversity, because you have the right to, okay? Um, anyway, I wish you guys who have supported me the very best, and it looks like I'm going to go ahead and edit this video, and then I'm going to go to bed.